Yes, Whittam-Smith, thanks very much for joining us from Paris. Thank you. Now, much of the English-speaking world is more sharply divided than ever before. On one side, those cruelly addicted to the American TV series Breaking Bad. On the other, those getting on with their lives, reading books, having a social life. Or Breaking Bad charts the ascent, excuse me, or perhaps descent, depending on your moral compass, of Albuquerque chemistry teacher Walter White into the world of cooking up crystal meth, an addictive and lucrative drug. The series has been acclaimed repeatedly as the best thing on television and even called Shakespearean. But now it's over. The final episode goes online on Monday. Johnny Diamond sent us this spoiler-free report from Albuquerque.
New Mexico. This is the landscape of bad. Drug deals gone wrong, shootouts at twilight, very dusty roads. This is just part of Breaking Bad. This is the epic, the misa, the space where a man can literally lose himself. There is another Breaking Bad, the car washes and the fast food joints, the ordinary, the banal, and they, it seems, are the rather unlikely stars. Now this is banal. In the show, Los Pollos Hermanos, chicken restaurant and crystal meth nerve center. In reality, a not too bad burrito joint. But for some, the dreariest location is a cause for celebration.
The locations, by and large, have not been set decorated. They are what they are. They're real. They're authentic. It shows that we have a quirky side to this place that we call home in the high desert Southwest. You know, it's kind of become an organic element where even the natives, where Albuquerque's will sit there and go, "Oh, this looks like a pretty cool place."
And when locations are this good, why dress them up? A car wash in real life, in Badland, this was, well, a car wash. Not just any car wash, of course. It was also a vehicle for laundering great big bricks of drug money. Now it's a stop on the many tours breaking out across the city. Was there any moment, I mean, for instance, when you turned up here, you got out of the car and you thought, oh, it's a car wash?
In what way?
Well, it is, I mean, I guess some people go to Washington, D.C. and they see the Lincoln Memorial and they see the White House, and other people may go to New Orleans and they see the French Quarter. You've come to Albuquerque and you're seeing a car wash.
It's the same type of thing. It has history to it, and it's something that I recognize and have seen so many times. And I'm actually kind of, once I walked in, it kind of came to the realization that, wow, I'm actually inside where all of these things are based. You know.
This is crystal meth candy.
Well, we call it Breaking Bad candy.
Breaking Bad
We don't
candy.
want, the media dubbed it blue meth.
Cooking up TV-based candies bring together two real-world addictions. Business is very good.
You don't think it's in, how should we say,
Bad taste?
dubious taste?
No, not at all. Walter White's character is what they're progressing, what they're developing. It isn't about this, it's about the development of the character and what happens to that character. But this is just a prop.
The contemporary Western has no heroes, just doubt and death in equal measure. This American tale may be fed on the myth of the West, but it is grounded firmly in the reality of the sleepless city.
Well, there we are. Now, Josie Rourke is artistic director at the Donmar Warehouse and has suggested Breaking Bad is in some ways Shakespearean. And Sir Peter Bazalgette brought his big brother and wrote a book on TV formats, $1 Billion Game, before going on to become head of England's Arts Council. just for those who haven't seen it, just give us a quick summary. Why is it so engaging? What is it about?
OK, I've got to be so careful because a grown man put his fingers in his ears and emitted a high-pitched squeal today when I started to talk about it, so I'm very conscious that I'm going to look after the nation. The premise is, and this is not a spoiler, a high school chemistry teacher is diagnosed with cancer and decides, through a series of encounters, his brother-in-law is DEA, drug enforcement agent, that he can cook crystal meth and make enough money to help his family survive after his death.
And that's the bit. Why is it in any way Shakespearean then?
Well, I think it's Shakespearean because of its massive themes. And I think what's interesting about it, and it's not Shakespearean in the sense that Shakespeare managed to condense what he wanted to do within the 2-hour traffic
It's
of our
not
stage.
Macbeth,
No, and
for
it's
example.
this is would take you, you could read the whole of Proust in the time it would take you to watch the whole of Breaking Bad. But in a way, that's how it can be. It can take in these massive ideas about family, about justice, about revenge, about integrity, and it can show the extraordinary descent of one character into an idea of evil and the jeopardy of himself.
Do you love it as much as most
No,
people seem to?
I'm extremely fond of it. It is as addictive as the crystal meths it features. And one of the interesting things was it's the first TV series in the history of TV to have become a hit via Netflix, the subscription service, because people discovered on Netflix, instead of watching it on its original channel, which is a cable channel called A&C, on Netflix they could get all of the programmes and binge on them, as you can if you buy the DVDs. And so it is like a great drugs binge. You watch lots of them in a row, 3 or 4, and you can't leave it alone, and it's addictive.
And I know people who said they've watched 3 and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Can we watch a 4th? I mean, that is part of the problem. They can't give it up.
It's completely compulsive. But, page turners are like that, aren't they? That's no different from a novel.
Should we learn something about this? I mean, a lot of British TV is women in bonnets, men in horses, and Downton Abbey. It is, isn't it?
Now listen, while you've got Chris Chibnall writing Broadchurch for ITV, you've got Paul Abbott writing Reckless for Channel 4, you've got Stephen Moffat writing Sherlock for BBC One, you can't say all of TV is in bonnets. In fact, they have hundreds of cable channels which can put lots of money into drama in America. We don't have that many channels, but we have public service broadcasting. The 3 channels I've just said put money in. And also, and I would say this, wouldn't I, but I'm going to, the Arts Council puts money into theatres that back new writers,
Right.
which is something Josie has made a brilliant career out of, backing new writers.
In terms of The Wire, for example, or this, it's about now, and sometimes, quite often, British culture is about then. It's not really about now in that way, although Donmar is certainly an exception.
Yeah, OK, but don't we love Breaking Bad not because we all know what it's like in New Mexico, but because it's essentially different from what we are, in the same way that a costume drama might be? I think there is something about these huge American stories where they can track the lives of an American patriarch. Any way you could go, it's like Shakespeare. It's a bit like Arthur Miller. When you look at James Gandolfini and The Sopranos, and you track that extraordinary descent of a man, and that's something that is pretty unique about the American form, I would say. In terms of whether or not we are writing contemporary stories, of course we are. Look at Top Boy, which in many ways is Channel 4's answer to The Wire. It's absolutely happening, I think.
And let's not say it's all heritage here and no heritage there. We've got Downton Abbey, they've got Dynasty.
That's true, and they also have Downton Abbey. But how much of this is spread by word of mouth as well? Because the distribution methods that you talked about, at the start, it would be quite difficult to find out about it. It was somebody, a family member, who dumped the set on us a couple of months ago and said, you've got to watch this, it's the best thing I've ever seen.
Yes, and it is a really interesting thing. Actually, word of mouth is not new.
No, it's not new, but it is effective.
Word of mouth is quicker because via Twitter and Facebook and the rest of it, word of mouth is at the speed of light nowadays, and it used not to be. So word of mouth is you watch Netflix, you find something you like, you're on your second screen, you're saying, I like this, people who follow you are picking up on it and watching it, and so it happens very, very quickly, so things can take off much more quickly.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with Netflix is that something that's been about compulsive consumption or whatever hour of the morning with Breaking Bad has now, as it gets to the end of its 5th series, become about a kind of curtain up moment.
Right.
As with Broadchurch, like everyone was at home going, when is it on, when are we tuning in, when can we get it?
Do you think we've got something to learn, at least about being more inventive about ways of distribution and getting that word of mouth moment?
Well, we have similar methods of distribution, and in fact one of our television platforms, the Virgin platform, has just made Netflix part of their TiVo service. So instead of regarding Netflix as competition, they're regarding it as at least a frenemy, if not a friend.
And just finally, where will you watch the finale? And will you watch it with the bloke who broke into tears when you started, put his hand in his ears or whatever it was?
No, because they're seriously behind.
Yeah, so,
actually,
so they're a different
I
planet.
mean, you know, the thing is, I think I will probably watch it on my phone, which is how I watched the last one.
Watch it
when
on
I
your
find a
phone.
moment in my day.
If I
mean,
may
that's
say
just
so,
what
I
I've
recommend
changed.
you watch it in rehab.
So it's very serious thing to say on national television, Peter.
All right. Thank you very much. We're all in rehab, perhaps. That's it from us tonight. Have a bad or a breaking bad weekend. Good night.